Welcome to the 5th round of the Rapid Tournament in Switzerland. We are currently 4 out of 4 and we are playing now a player who is rated around 2000. I started the game with e4. He opted for c5, knight f3. He's looking around maybe to copy some other openings. But he decided to go for Taiman of e6. Played g3 again. Picked that sideline. He played knight c6. Played bishop g2. And now here the move such as d5 or playing knight f6, just transposing into the king's Indian attack or French defense. But he decided to play queen c7, which is less accurate because exposing the queen that early allows me to have faster and better development. And later on, queen usually gets into these attacks with a knight. He played knight f6. And here we can defend the pawn a couple of ways, like queen e2, rook e1, knight c3, d3. But since the rook will be the most efficient piece in this moment on the e-line, we are positioning the rook here. So next, he can't proceed easily with d5 because the only piece that can recapture is the knight. Also, this allows maybe to go something like e5 and take control over the dark squares. On the other side, if we build the center with c3, d4, this could look very powerful. And that's the reason why he's choosing to play the move e5 here. But this is definitely not good. Playing once, then second time with this pawn. I played knight c3, but what is even much better is to go c3 and d4 directly, which is destroying the center. But I played knight c3, which is also possible. He played d6, and now I directly jump with my knight on d5 because I want to see the trade. Knight takes, pawn takes, and now the e-line gets open. So it's really hard where to place this knight. I remember that the line goes something like knight e4, then we take, c takes, and now c3, because we want to undermine this pawn structure. But he decided to go knight e7, which is again less accurate and passive. He attacks the pawn on d5, but the problem is if knight takes, there is knight takes c5 and this cover in the d5 square. So I played c3, I just don't care about a pawn on d5, and if they go for this, now just d4 or something like knight takes e5 directly works with ton of advantage for white and position is getting open. So whenever you see black king in the middle, just try to open up the lines. Instead he played bishop g4, which definitely looks annoying, but I played d4 here, trying to destroy the pawn center. And now one of the moves that defends it is something like f6 or something like knight g6. Definitely looks convenient here for black. At that point, I was looking how I can get rid of this pin, and some moves like a queen a4 check, or you can go something like h4 and maybe next time to go h5 and kick this knight from g6. That's also very interesting. The other ways of defending this pawn doesn't really exist. If he takes on f3, I'll just take back with my bishop, and the pawn pressure in the middle still exists. And for him, it's really hard to get out of this problem because it doesn't matter how much he takes here, the line gets open, and after queen d4, I think they're having so many king safety problems, like longside castles falls apart because of queen takes a7. If they try to save that by going some b6 move and then to castle, we'll have something like bishop f4 followed by rook c1 and we directly win the game. He can't play g6, bishop g7 because rook in the corner is hanging. f6 doesn't do much in this position. So trading the bishop here is not a good idea. Even if it looks strong when you're trading the attacking piece, which is knight, and putting the pressure on e5, I agree with that, but in this scenario, it doesn't work. So after d4, he has a hard time deciding what move to play as defense. He decided to play f6. As I mentioned earlier, it was a very possible option. Now I was looking, maybe I should go h3. And eliminate this bishop, because my point is, on h3, if he goes bishop h5, I'll go g4, and when he drops the bishop somewhere back, I'll take on e5, and after pawn takes, I have some ideas like knight takes e5, where if pawn takes, we'll play d6. And this directly opens the center, takes the piece back, undermines the pawn structure, and directly strikes the king. So h3 was possible, but on h3 he won't take on f3, and after queen takes f3, I don't really have direct strike on these pawns. So on the other side, for him, it's really hard to castle short, so he might look for a long side castling, like maybe even directly here, but on the other side, you know, it's not safe to castle there. Like, what if c line gets open or something? Maybe we can directly start pushing like b4 and so on. That could be annoying for them for sure. On the other side, after f6, we can also just take and maybe play something like rook e4. But this feels a little bit artificial, so at that point I was looking maybe to play something like queen a4 check or queen to b3. This looked to me very interesting because I don't want to really place my bishop on e3. I'll block the line from my rook and all pressure will just disappear. So I'll stick my bishop on c1 for now, and maybe later I'll find the room for this bishop somewhere on this diagonal after some trade happens with these pawns in the center. On the other side, placing the bishop with b3 and bishop b2 doesn't make sense here. So I decided to go for queen b3, which I think it makes a lot of sense. It's also protecting the pawn here, and if we go a little back, knight takes d5 could be a threat because I cannot take now on e5. My queen is hanging on d1, and that's why h3 used to be the strongest move in the position. But I played queen b3, and now a couple of options for black are, again, to take the knight, also maybe to go with the bishop all the way back if you want to push some b5 and so on. Maybe he can go c4, who knows, that's also possible, but closing and allowing the pawn strength in the middle for white is not a good idea. He finally decided to play the move c4, which actually allows me to continue with a attack. Now I started with queen a4 check, trying to provoke this bishop back, and he played bishop d7, and after that I can safely go queen d1. So if he plays now bishop g4, I'm simply one move up because he decided to go with the bishop back, and I think that's not a great idea for black at all here to waste the time, because at that point I will be ready to play h3. Now he's hesitating to play g6, totally natural move. He's trying to put a bishop on g7. This makes a lot of sense, but this just tactically doesn't work. As you see from the evil bar, there is d takes c5. The point behind it is the previous tactical idea that we mentioned, and that's exactly knight takes c5, because after pawn takes there is d6. I'm hesitating here maybe to see if I should go with something else like knight g5 or to go there, but there is nothing to be around that idea. We are strictly focusing to open up the center, and this is the moment that he got shocked. He didn't expect this move at all. Now he start thinking simply he can't castle long because there is knight f7 and we are winning the exchange at least. Taking here will result into d6. That's what he did. I have to play d6. Now queen is under the attack. So queen b6, queen a5, queen c5, all of these moves are very much possible. Also pawn on e5 is hanging, so we don't need directly to take the knight, because if he let us take this pawn, the knight is remaining under the pin, so it's immobilized of movement. We'll focus strongly to put a pressure on this knight later, but it's also totally fine just to eliminate this knight after the fork. If black managed to castle somehow here, maybe he can stay, you know, in the safe zone, but it's really, really questionable. You need to play very poorly as white here to allow black to get out of this problem. And now you see hesitation is very big on the black side. He played queen b6 finally. And now that's something I was telling you. You can take on e5, but there is nothing wrong with just eliminating the knight. Now taking here, we'll open up the line completely and pressuring this bishop on e7. That's why he's choosing to go on the other side and play bishop g7, which makes sense, but still he can't castle. King is zoned. And he's facing a lot of problems here with the castles. So at some point, if he decides to take this pawn, then again he won't have castling option. Now what I'm thinking here, how I can get the most of this position, I played bishop e3, targeting the queen on b6, trying to see where actually this queen goes. For example, queen takes b2 is a poison pawn as usual, because this allows my rook to join the game, and anyways, this diagonal is really strong. So queen takes b2 is poison pawn for them. He chooses to drop the queen back to c7, which is safer option, protecting the bishop. So it's very interesting that white's domination here completely immobilized black pieces. This bishop is bad, this bishop is passive, queen is also passive, rooks are in the corners. Now we have to go forward. So I played queen d5. I'm kind of threatening on b7. And if I wanted from him to play bishop c6, where I'll take the pawn, and now bishop is pinned. So I just won a pawn, and definitely the next move I'll look for trades because I'm pawn up and this pawn is strong. I'll push f4 to open up the e line. They definitely face some trouble around that. So on queen d5, he also can castle. If he takes here, my plan was to go bishop c5. And if he tries to get around on the other side, I'll play rook ad1 and completely focus now on this bishop here with bishop h3. So on queen d5 is really hard to propose any good move for black. He's kind of stuck here. If he plays rook c8 and then look for something like bishop to c6, then this wastes time, and I guess I'll just bring my rook on d1. But his decision of exposing the king side more surprised me. He played h5, and now I already spot that g6 becomes a big weakness. And I played bishop e4, where directly when I take this pawn, he definitely cannot protect this pawn. The only way is to play queen c6 and offer the queen trade. If he takes the pawn, that's what I want. My pawn is not anymore the shelter for his king. He's also getting very low on time. Time management is not on his side, and he is very skeptical in his decisions. But also white's domination here simply freezes every single idea of black here. He's a little bit desperate now that there is no good way of protecting this pawn. He doesn't like to simplify here because queen is very much needed for the counterplay in chess if you're worse. But that's the wrong approach. Then why did you expose your pawns? Why did you expose your structure? Why did you allow your opponent to press on your pawns? Look at my pawns. Like, my pawns are barely moved. Everything is on the second rank and the third rank, while he has pawn on the fourth, 2 pawns on the fifth, king is open, g6 open. So he played queen c6. I mentioned that's the only move to protect g6, but it's not really protecting because after the queen trade, pawn is hanging, so bishop takes back. And now this comes with check, so bishop takes g6, king takes e7. And now to remain the pressure on the board and consistency, to not allow him to consolidate, because if he consolidates the rooks and put them in the game, then he's just pawned down and maybe he can hold. That's why I have to be so quick in my attack. Bishop g5 check on the king. So king cannot go back, so he went up on e6. As you see now, my intention is to take this pawn and open up the center. I played f4. At that point, if he goes e4, I'll just eliminate a pawn. He doesn't have time for something like rook e8. Also okay, my bad. Rook is hanging here and also the pawn. So pretty much all these squares are stuck for his counterplay, and he tried something here, but figure out that there is no defense. There is no defense here for black at all. Hesitating again, getting low on time, 30 seconds. Having a lot of trouble. I already here got relaxed because I know I'm winning. It's just a matter of time when this game will come to the end. He played h4, trying to open up the king side, I guess. And here, I just don't need to even look at that one. I should maybe play rook 81 because f5 would be a threat of checkmate. But I just decided to take here. I was thinking that he might sacrifice the exchange here. But I also didn't see how that will help him in the future. He played bishop f6. And now this is another big mistake because f5 check is coming. And if he gets away from this bishop, don't just take the bishop. But he played king e7 and now there is X-ray and destruction for this bishop, so he cannot really take my rook and doesn't have square on f7 for the king. So where he moves the king, I take the bishop. So he went up on d6. Now I just take the bishop, also attack the rook. He played rook f8, attacking my bishop. Now I brought the rook in the game with check. He played king c7. Now there is another check on e7. He played king b6. Then I brought a bishop back to d4 with check. He played king a6. Now I played bishop f7, attacking the c4 pawn. He played b5 to protect it. Now I played bishop c5. And this is a very interesting moment because he played rook d8 and now I have checkmate in 1. But I didn't see that on the first glance. He's now showing me that I missed the checkmate. I smiled and I didn't realize that I missed it. But anyway, position is winning. So rook d4, he played bishop b7 to stop it. But it doesn't matter really. Like, you don't really need to give a checkmate here. So at that point, I thought that I can take the rook. So I played rook e6. And he's kind of collapsing here completely. He played king a5. There's no checkmate, I think, so I just decided to take the rook and he resigns the game. We are proceeding in the 6th round with 5 out of 5 and definitely leading the tournament. We have a lot of chances for the first place and I'll see you in the next round.